In this video, I'm gonna show you my very best pitch template that I've been using for years and years. So whether you are doing a sales pitch, business development pitch, doing a school presentation, or even an internal meeting, if you wanna convince people to believe in your ideas and back you, this is gonna be my very best template that you can use step by step. Now, I want to give a huge shout out for our sponsor Pitch.com for helping make this video possible, but more on them later, and let's dive into this template. So now I'm going to reveal my pitch template that I've been using for years and years and teaching students for years and years. No matter what pitch you are doing, whether it's sales, business development, school presentations, this is the one for you. And how it's going to work is you want to just fill in the boxes with basically what you want to talk about. So we'll go through each box one by one so you know exactly how to start the pitch, what to say in the middle, and also how to close it out. And we're calling this template the perfect pitch. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is the intro, right? So the intro is one of the most important parts of a pitch. Typically what you wanna do is you wanna start off with some kind of story, interesting fact, something that will capture someone's imagination. You don't wanna sound like, hey everybody, today we're gonna talk about our SaaS product, right? You don't wanna be boring. It has to be like some type of story, some kind of personal experience, or maybe a customer experience, right? These are the things that are gonna get people hooked. Now, if you are selling a product and service, the best way to go, in my personal opinion, is to start with a common customer pain or a statistic that drives some kind of pain that is very relatable to the audience. So for example, if somebody is having trouble with social media marketing, right? You could say something like 30% of restaurants are going out of business because they don't know how to use Google Ads. And that will capture someone's attention, especially if they don't know how to use Google Ads. So always start with the pain in the intro first. So the second step of your pitch is going to be your message summary. This is essentially just sharing with somebody what exactly your whole point of this pitch is about. Your intro is to capture your imagination. Your message summary is to give them the high level vision of like, okay, the reason why we're here today is because I want to show you how we can increase your sales by 3x by leveraging social media, for example. That's essentially where you put that. You don't want to make it too long. You really just want to make it, a couple sentences. They get the idea of what it is. They understand the problem. Because you put the problem into the intro, it's kind of baked in together. So when you tell them today we are going to talk about XYZ, it's so much more impactful because you already agitated that problem. Now, real quick, I want to give a shout out once again to our sponsor Pitch.com for helping make this video possible. Now, if you didn't know, Pitch is an AI-powered presentation software that enables teams to work remotely and quickly create sleek and beautiful pitch decks. So to use Pitch, it's very simple, right? You can either create a presentation from scratch or you can use AI, which is a very interesting thing. So I'm gonna say like create a pitch for social media marketing for brick and mortar pet shops, for example, and starts generating, right? So from here, it's all AI at this point, right? So all I did was type in one prompt to give me a pitch deck. So as you can see here, it's going to populate everything really quickly. It's even using images like pictures of dogs, which is really interesting because I'm selling to pet owners. We can change the colors of these things depending on who you want to pitch to and what your vibe is for your brands, right? So let's go ahead and use this green one. And then from here, you can edit the different slides and go into it to make sure that it actually aligns with whatever product and service you're selling, right? So this is one of the easiest ways to create a pitch presentation. You also, multiple people can collaborate on it to make it easier for your team to work together on this. So you can change the text, the titles, the styles, the pictures, anything you need in order to create your pitch. So if you want to check that out for yourself, make sure to check the link in the description to learn more about pitch. After you give them your message summary, the whole point of what we're even talking about, you want to go into the agenda. So agenda is very short, right? Agenda has 3 parts. Basically, in your presentation, you will typically have 3 bullet points. It's really just a slide that says agenda, point number 1, point number 2, and point number 3. So you would say, okay, so we're going to show you how to increase your sales by 3x using Instagram. How we're going to do that is point number 1, point number 2, and finally point number 3. So in the presentation, the audience knows exactly what to expect, meaning that when they're sitting down listening to you talk, they're not wondering like, oh, what is this gonna say next, or when is this pitch gonna be over, because they know exactly what's gonna happen. So when you tell them up front, like, hey, we're gonna talk about these 3 points, they can follow along much more easier. And so you see so far, you're kind of holding their hand through the presentation, starting with the intro, what we're talking about, the 3 main points, and then you just go into your body number 1. So if you ever wonder like what your slides should be, it's literally that body 1, body 2, body 3. And what do you put in those bodies? Very simple. essentially, by the time you put together a presentation, you should have some kind of idea of who your customer is because you either talk to them on the phone or you have some context, right? And typically when you are selling to somebody, they are going to have some kind of problem, and your solution, your product and service, is the thing that solves that problem. So that goes into body number one. So you could say something like, for example, the first pain we have is a lot of brick and mortar businesses don't know how to use social media, and they don't have anyone on their team that knows how to do it. And sometimes it's very expensive to hire somebody in-house, especially if they don't know how to hire. So here's our solution to people who face those kinds of challenges. And then you go into how your marketing agency can increase their revenue without them having to really do any work, right? For example, essentially you start with a pain, your solution, basically how your product and service solves that pain, and then you go into specifically why it's important to do it now. For example, if they don't implement social media marketing into their business now, maybe they're going to be left behind, and eventually 1 year later they're going to be bankrupt. So that's why they need to get started now, so they learn how to do this so they can start increasing revenue, not losing revenue, right? So that's a really good reason for why somebody should buy your solution right there. So pain, solution, why. Very simple, right? So after you do the body, typically what I would do is I would ask the audience like, hey, before I move on to the next point, do you guys have any questions there? And if they have questions, you answer on the spot. If they don't, you move on to body number two. Now for body number two, the format is exactly the same, where you're talking about the pain, the solution, and then the why. What pain will you talk about? It just depends on who your customer is and what problem that you actually solve. So in any presentation, you want to have basically the 3 main pain points. You don't need to have 7 pain points, right? Just go for the main ones that will get the customer to buy. And typically they will usually have like 1 pain or maybe at most 3 pains, major pains that will actually get them to take the money out of their pocket. And then body number 3 should be pretty obvious. Same thing, just change the problem, right? So no matter what product you're selling, there's always a pain, there's always a solution, there's always a reason for why they need to buy it now, or why this is important, why you're different, etc., etc. Now, once you cover the 3 pains that somebody has, they're gonna feel like, oh wow, like this guy really understands my problems. I think I really should work with him, right? So you want to go into the summary. Basically, you're just repeating your agenda, right? That slide's gonna be like summary, point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, which is basically your body number 1, 2, and 3. So you just summarize everything you talked about, and you say, hey, the first thing we talked about is how brick and mortar business are going out of business because they don't know how to use social media. And then we talked about body number 2. Then we talked about body number 3. And then at the end, you really just close it off with some kind of story, or maybe you're really excited to work with them. There's many different types of closes that you can do, or you can use fear, for example. If they don't do these things, what's going to happen, and share how much you want to help. So there's many different closes you can use. I don't want to get too deep into this because this is more of a template for the entire pitch, but essentially you would close it out with some kind of story or some kind of call to action or something like that. Now at the end, essentially all you do is you close it out, and then you say, hey, now that we went ahead and finished the presentation, do you have any questions on anything to see if it's a right fit to move forward? From there, the person is going to have questions. If they do, you answer them, you handle those objections. If they don't have any questions, then you say, great, typically at this stage for you guys, what would be the next step to move the deal forward? And then whatever they tell you is necessary, they need to do to move the deal forward, that's what you do to eventually close the deal. So that is essentially the perfect pitch template. It's very, very simple. I use this for every presentation I use, even now. It's super simple. All you have to do is just fill out the boxes, right? You just write it on the piece of paper, fill out the boxes. What's your intro? What's your message summary? What's the 3 pain points? Just solve it right there, right? If you cannot put your whole presentation into one piece of paper like this and just filling out the boxes, then you probably don't understand your content enough to present it in a concise way, right? Always make it very simple. Each one of these should have like 1 sentence or 2 sentences each, and that's pretty much all you need. And so with that said, that's everything we got to cover when it comes to the perfect pitch. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I will see you in the next one.